So we just had a sort of a unique situation happening over the hostage release. Uh, Basically, I believe 7 hostages were released, 2 Israelis and 2 foreign nationals, specifically from is it Thailand or Vietnam? Now I'm not sure.
I think it was five were released from Thailand. Yeah, and two Israelis.
Two
Yeah,
Israelis,
so.
yeah.
Mhm.
And there was a bit of a problem there since when the hostages were released. One, there was a delay. I think this sort of release, basically going from Hamas to Red Cross to International Red Cross, it was supposed to take like a few minutes, and it took few hours because of the mob that surrounded the hostages that Hamas had to try to keep away, and basically it got delayed. Because of that, also I think there was a delay also in the Israeli side. Basically they sent the bus back saying they will not release. I think there was even some talk about potentially not even releasing at all until they get some guarantees, but they did release them in the end. We'll go over all of that. uh, uh, Joining me today is Alex. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And I mean, Alex, what do you make of this? You think it was just a bunch of Palestinian mob that just overwhelmed Hamas when it came to releasing the hostages?
Yeah, I mean, you can always tell, right, when Hamas is actually orchestrating something, because you don't see any women, right, in the frame. So whenever you are going to be seeing a whole bunch of, men, you know that this is something that has been generated, of course, by them, right? Because they don't have, spontaneous women unless it's, to kind of film their propaganda, like they're poor women, that are being murdered by the evil Israeli, the evil IDF. So yeah, I mean, I think that they could have gotten lynched, to tell you the truth. There's a lot of guns in Gaza. Um, and I don't know what they were like. Uh, I mean, I don't know what to say because they had that crazy ceremony as well that they did, which is again like just it's just I don't know what you say. Like, it's so I'm demoralized, right? I'm happy at the same time to be seeing the hostages release. And then I'm wondering, like, am I actually gonna see a live lynching on TV? Because it seems to be very like possible, right? That actually could happen. And yeah, I I fear for any men who are going to be released, any military aged men. I really think that could end up maybe in a lynching.
Yeah, and if we ever even see that, that's gonna happen most likely months from now, since that's supposed to be in the sort of second part of the negotiations. Later, we can also talk about that. I should although mention that the hostages are now safely in the hands of Israel.
Mhm.
That
But
that
apparently, yeah.
yeah.
But I was going to say, but apparently there was, clashes that have been going on in the West Bank and also in Jerusalem, because the IDF made a whole bunch of arrests. And also, I heard now that a soldier was killed. So I really don't know, like, what would have happened, like, what if there really was like a riot that happened, because they were handing out flyers to everybody saying like, "Do not celebrate. If you guys celebrate, we're gonna really like, we're really gonna." We're gonna lay down the law to you guys. I mean, I think you should just arrested them right back. That would have been, that would have been great.
Yeah, and
But
uh, actually, we will be talking on that more on the reality show. Basically,
Mhm.
the so-called social media incitement to violence, which Palestinians
Mhm.
have been engaging, and what Israel has been doing about it. But first, I have a few quotes from Netanyahu on these situations. So he said, I view with utmost severity the shocking scenes during the release of our hostages. This is additional proof of the inconceivable brutality of the Hamas terrorist organization. I'm really just wondering how many like examples of Hamas's brutality do we really need uh, before something even worse happens, or before we realize that yeah, you cannot negotiate with Hamas. Like since even since this ceasefire has started, even since uh, this so-called exchange has started, Hamas has pretty much used every single opportunity to either violate the parts of the deal, such as still not releasing the actual children, not releasing female IDF soldiers before releasing both older women and the children.
Hmm.
Again, now like using, I mean, you've mentioned it. The female IDF soldiers that released, they made a whole like graduation ceremony or whatever you want to call it out of it, where they were wearing uniforms. Now people, which was like clear propaganda, and now people are reposting it as propaganda. Basically, look at them; they're smiling when they're released. They are sad to go in some cases. So the Hamas is like has this propaganda game really handled, which is truly disgusting, especially since
Yeah.
the West is pretty much gobbling it up.
Yeah. Apparently it was actually an Al Jazeera journalist who is the person who is like stage managing those um they're basically stage managing that whole graduation ceremony thing because you'd
Yeah,
have to
I
be
think
very
yeah.
dumb to believe this.
If people check out social media, I think there is a one specific video where you see a guy saying like wave,
Yeah,
and
yeah, 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 of course.
Uh, one more quote from Netanyahu: mediators ensure that such terrible scenes do not occur and guarantee the safety of our hostages. Whoever dares to harm our hostages will pay. Well, Hamas has already, the fact that they are hostages already means Hamas has done something. So yeah, this is such a shaky sort of deal, such shaky sort of way of like dealing with the whole situation. And yeah, I mean, as you said, because all of this is recorded, all these exchanges are recorded. So yeah, we might see something, because again, now we're just seeing the sort of the let's say the more vulnerable parts of the hostages sort of being released, women, not children, because again, Hamas has broke that part of the deal again and has not
Hmm.
pretty much paid in any way for it, and also elderly. But yeah, when it comes to releasing releasing military age men, we really have to be careful what's gonna happen. Um, I mean, something else to bring up. Apparently, it looks like Witkov has been in Israel again and has been sort of convincing Netanyahu to continue with the deal, basically trying to see it through. I believe something that he said, at least, that we are supposed to see the Americans being released on Saturday. So we'll see where we'll go with that. But yeah, something we've heard about when this deal fell through, when we've heard about Witkov's pressure on Netanyahu to basically accept the deal. We've heard from some people, well, maybe it's just it's just a ploy. We'll break the deal later. But now we'll see. Now we see Witkov hoping it goes through. Uh, Witkov is the uh, Trump's special envoy to Middle East. I mean, Alex, what do you think is gonna happen with this deal? I mean, I think this first phase was supposed to originally take 6 weeks, I believe.
Hmm.
Um, Now this release that happened on Thursday was in a sense like a special release, so I'm not sure if
Hmm.
that gets shorter or how it's gonna go from now. But we, at the very least, I believe we are supposed to see more negotiations starting when it comes to sort of full release or permanent, so-called permanent ceasefire. What do you think we'll see?
I mean, I don't, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter in my opinion now because it's like they've gone back, right? They've gone back to northern Gaza, so we can't, I don't know how we can go back in and remove all of the people. It's an operational nightmare. We already lost so many soldiers conquering, to go back and reconquer, I think would be quite crazy. So yeah, it's actually not really consequent. Well, I'm not so sure it's that consequential, right? Whether or not it's now fully implemented or partially implemented or whatever, because well, it's kind of already lost in my opinion. But I think that this guy, um, you know, just because just because you've done a little bit of business in Qatar doesn't mean you understand anything about the Middle East, right? Because they'll be very nice to you to get a business deal, or they'll say whatever you want to say, but you don't speak Arabic, so the moment you're out of the room, they're immediately but it's like the whole thing with Al Jazeera. People are like, "Well, I watch Al Jazeera. It's not that bad." It's like, what language do you watch it in? Yeah, because they don't. It's a totally different. It's a totally different like level of subversion, right? That they're playing on you. Um, but my concern is that in the second phase, they're going to ask for celebrities to be released. And that is, I don't know how we would possibly negotiate that one. So it's, I don't know, because it's actually is very painful, the idea that the soldiers would remain there because, we have such a duty to return all of our, all of everybody who's basically in prison, especially the soldiers. But then imagine if the price is going to be Marwan Barghouti. Extremely hard for me to kind of, negotiate that in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, Marwan Barghouti was someone that I believe was already mentioned at some point. It was relatively quickly sort of swiped off the table by Israel, but again,
Hmm.
now we were, sort of only in the first stage. We still have, two stages to go. Not to mention, it will, the sort of the price in some way. And, it's truly disgusting way of like talking about, human lives, specifically Israeli lives, as a price.
Hmm.
But, Hamas is putting a price on it. It's in
Yeah.
this specific part, I think it
But
was
I,
1 to 15 or 1 to 17, basically the ratio. Among them were 30 life sentences, basically 30 people who got life sentences. Again, we are not talking about. I mean, we did an episode about the who are the Palestinians that are being released. We've covered the article by the Washington Post where they try to say, well, look, these are like innocent people, and it's like a Palestinian
mm,
Jihad member, a PFLP member, and those are like
yeah.
the better parts of. So yeah, now, or even before, but like people with life sentences or multiple life sentences are being released, and sort of hoping that. Yeah, it really, it's sort of hard to even do these episodes now because, especially I can imagine for Israelis, because these people, like these are actual terrorists who've killed people who are in jail for even managing to kill or failing at killing, but definitely trying to kill actual Israelis. And now they are being released to basically try again. I mean, these people, do you expect them to be reformed in any way? Do you expect? I mean, even if even if these people were somehow turned the other leaf or somehow changed, like you're already so gone. Like you've what happened on October 7th, or even before, because many of these were not even caught on October 7th, but before or after. But like there is no justification for your continued living, let alone being released into back to your home. Um,
Well, I mean, it's also just the fact that, like, we're this is for us, this is very close. I mean, off our prison is 4 minutes from my house. Okay, so it's like very, very close. It's the prison that they've been released to, and I understood that there were Israeli protesters who have been now involved in clashes with Palestinians in this area, right? Because they're protesting the release. So you basically have this like kind of shadow war zone, right? Just like down the road from where you live. And on top of that, even worse, you can hear the celebrations and that they're shooting the guns into the air like bam bam. It's like it's and that's not to say that we aren't celebrating when we see these these actual innocent people being released, right? We're definitely, elated, excited, but you actually it you can walk around just in a complete daze, okay, a complete daze and a depression about this because, these are because I walk down the street and all of a sudden I see places where there were, suicide bombings, right? You can actually, if you stand at the corner of where I work and you just look ahead, you can see, one here at the pizza shop, one here over here, one, and it's, and then and then you're on your way home from work, you're seeing celebrations, you're hearing celebrations. It brings up all of these, painful experiences from the Intifada. And the only reason that we've been kept relatively kind of safe is because we managed to lock so many of them up. Um, and and there were so many people who were like who were killed, actually arresting them and actually putting them in prison. Um, and all of that's just kind of, gone. But I'm brought a little bit of comfort because I was actually at the celebration for the closing down of UNRWA, a nice, kind of champagne celebration for their offices closing down. But it it is enough. These feelings are really enough to make you really start doubting your sense of reality, which I'm sure that's what Hamas wants, right? Because their operation against Israel is not no longer military. It's now a psychological warfare operation, um, and I would say that yeah, they're probably winning it, the psychological warfare, at least against us.
yeah, I mean, the fact is that on the other side, Israel has never pretty much engaged in psychological warfare or, well, I think something or sort of demoralization. I mean, you could say something like the pager attack was the pretty much the closest thing
Mm,
to that, basically saying we can get you all at once everywhere. But when it came to Gaza, we pretty much never restricted or never fully restricted humanitarian aid coming in, never engaged in any sort of heavy campaign, heavy bombing campaign. Uh, and instead we're risking IDF lives.
mhm,
Someone in the chat says the second release today in Khan Yunis was Islamic Jihad, which now looking at the picture,
mhm.
they do look like Islamic Jihad members. So apologies for that. Whenever I say Hamas, I usually just
Yeah.
mean colloquially, basically all the terrorist groups,
Yeah,
because
because
yeah,
there's no
there is,
difference. Like,
yeah,
what's
yeah.
the
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but basically it's like it's only in name difference, but basically
yeah,
there is no fundamental difference. So in a sense, it's like a united way of talking about them.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
even the people who are being released, even the terrorists that are being released, are not all Hamas, right? A lot of them even they're
yeah,
even releasing some, and that'll be part of their whole kind of internal negotiations thing, is that they'll say, the Palestinian Authority has been getting, the Al Aqsa Martyrs Brigade people from that from there actually. And PFLP, right? Like they're not obviously a part of Hamas, but it'll be part of. Well, remember, none of them, nobody actually cares if they're back. Like, it's not as if it's like with Israel, like, oh, we want our people back, If it's somebody who is important operationally, then yeah, they would like to get them back so that they can continue to, so maybe they're really good with the finances, they're really good at raising money, or maybe they have some kind of special information that only that is quite difficult to replace. But these are six and a half a dozen, and they definitely don't care about their people. So screw it. Okay, no problem for Mohammed. For $500,000, I'll release one of your people. It's all about making money. It's all about extorting the people. It's all about violently subjugating.
uh, yeah. I mean, all I can think of right now is like a racist stereotype joke. We want 50 terrorists back, but for you, Habibi, 33. And this is like this is
Yeah,
what uh
yeah.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
I wanted to mention one thing about, because you mentioned the Palestinian Authority, and I think there was one specific case of a Fatah member being released, and the what the hell is his name? The Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud
Abu
Abbas,
Mazen. Mhm.
has called him, congratulating him on the release, and
Mhm.
again, what the hell is like, again, that was not like like a politician, or I mean, even when it comes to Fatah politician, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
But
I
like
mean,
there
yeah.
was not like some kind of yeah, there is no way to even talk about it. It's a terrorist. Like, he is congratulated for being released, a terrorist. I mean, we are, oftentimes when I engaged with ideas, I try to sort of, steelman all arguments. So I'm now trying to, what is the best thing you could do? But these are like actual terrorists. There is no sort of
Yeah.
like brighter way of looking at it. There is no like
Mhm.
steelman. Like, when I say they're releasing terrorists, that's steelmanning. That's
Yeah.
like what they are actually doing. So yeah, and this deal is still is going through. And as you mentioned, now I mean, I think I've seen a post about it, how Palestinians are returning home, and you see these pictures of them sort of like walking through the rubble. And to me, it's like incredible that, like, in the West, many people, many organizations are saying like Israel is committing genocide, and you do see like the destruction that happened, like all like from the pictures that you see, you're like, there is not a single building like still standing at Gaza, in Gaza. Yet barely any people died when it came to like when you came to like percentage wise. It's like insane how like bad Israel is at like actually killing people. And it's not that it's
Mhm.
bad, it's because it's not doing it. It's not
Mhm.
actually trying to um barely killing the people. I think maybe it changed now, but last time I've seen it, like they killed like less than one Palestinian per bomb dropped. It's like the amount is like, yeah, like, yeah, at this point it's like, what do you even do? Like, how do you even go back in, as you said now? um
Yeah, it's not easy for it's very, very difficult to conquer territory, but it's also a problem for Israel to apparently conquer it and actually, keep a hold of it, because then you're getting into a situation that I can understand them from a military perspective. No military, no general wants to be holding on to territory, right? No, as in holding in and administering like a military occupation to the civilians, as in they're going to be handling the day-to-days because it's a complete nightmare. And I don't feel, and I totally get it. And someone in the trees, someone in the chat is mentioning that Abu Mazen and Arafat were KGB agents, and I was like, yeah. So the story actually with Abu Mazen is that he went to Russia and he doesn't speak Russian, so he went to the Lumumba University, which was the revolutionary university in Moscow. I think it was Sergei Lavrov actually was one of the ones who kind of groomed them. No, was it? No, it must have been Lavrov Senior. Was kind of grooming them for leadership. Um, and he wrote he doesn't speak Russian, doesn't know how to speak it, but he wrote this perfect dissertation on how the Holocaust didn't really happen or whatever in Russian. And it's just one of these things. It's like they're not even necessarily trying to hide it. And I also, find it very interesting that potentially Arafat was killed by polonium 210. And it's, these are interesting. I mean, the history on who they are, okay, is out there, right? Not difficult to kind of figure it out. And yet, I would say, no Palestinians actually even realize it. They don't even really realize that this entire thing, them being involved in this crazy experiment, right? In this crazy, sad experiment that is just totally got, it's totally gotten out of control, right? I mean, that you actually have them. You actually have former KGB agents, probably present day KGB agents, who are, it's like in Russia, running a country. Okay. We know how it's going to turn out. It's not going to turn out great because none of it is about nation building. It's only about the revolution. It's only about killing. So they're, and I don't know how it takes, I don't know how it's taken Israel and so long, right, to figure these things out. And many of these things we actually haven't figured out. We haven't figured out any of the key lessons because there's no difference between a Palestinian that lives in Gaza and a Palestinian that lives in Jordan. They're both Palestinians, right? I hate that term Palestinians, but like they're both the same kind of people, right? But the Jordanians are not willing, okay? The Jordanian Palestinians are not willing to just completely destroy everything and everything around them in order to satisfy this revolutionary, suicidal itch, okay? Because they have a smart leader, the King of Jordan. They have a leader who has some degree of culpability, okay, when it comes to the people, right? Whereas Abu Mazen and Arafat and the people in Hamas, they haven't made because everything's a disaster, but it's always the Jews' fault. So yeah, I mean it's I don't know what to I don't know what to say really. I don't know.
Yeah, and with that, I think it's about time to wrap up. But we will continue on the reality show, where we'll talk about the Hamas's digital jihad. We'll talk about the some of the people and sort of the way Hamas has been fighting the basically the social media aspects of this war and what Israel is doing to, let's say, fight it, and how the West has been helping Hamas in this regard. So, link for that is in the chat. Make sure to check that. Thank you, Alex, for joining me today. We'll be back in just a minute or so on the reality show. Thank you and bye bye.